When we look at Genesis chapter 22, we see the call, if you will, by the angel of the Lord, and he calls Abraham to offer his son Isaac, to be offered on the altar as a sacrifice, a burnt offering to God. It's one of those stories that has literally confounded the minds of believers, and it's one of the hotly debated topics of our faith. And so I just wanted to reflect on that for you for these moments, and just kind of point it out to us that when we see this whole story where Abraham is called by the angel of the Lord, and he's told, if you will, to offer your son as a living sacrifice, or as a burnt offering, if you will, Abraham immediately responds in the affirmative. He doesn't question, he doesn't hesitate, he sets out on it. It's a message, if you will, for us. How is it that we are going to respond when God calls us, and we know what God calls us to do? We know what we should be doing. We know what the standards of God, we know the requirements of God in our lives, but how are we going to handle that moment when we are called to go into that scary place, when we are called to go into that unknown place that we probably don't want to go? Can we respond with the willingness that we see Abraham showing in this particular episode in his life? The benefit here, though, is for Abraham, and I'll point that out in a minute, but here is what I want us to really understand. When this whole thing starts to unfold, and he takes his son, they're going to the place where the sacrifice is going to happen, and his son looks at him and says, "Father, I see that you have the wood, I see that we have the fire, but where is the sheep? Where is the offering, if you will, that we are going to put on the altar?" And Abraham's reply is one for the ages, and he says, "God will supply." Now we get to the place where he's about to put this young man, his only son, the son of his old age, the son that he prayed for, he's about to put him on the altar and slay him. And that's when the angel of the Lord calls out to him and says, "Nah, Abraham, don't hurt your son. Don't harm your son. Now I know." And we often read that in the very terms, if you will, that we are reflecting it. But we need to understand that this response to Abraham is an affirmation, and it kind of goes like this: "Abraham, now I know that you fear God, and I know that you're willing to do whatever it is that you are required to do. You're willing to give your son as an offering, and now it's an affirmation as opposed to this kind of painful, almost tormenting scenario that we are often told it is designed to be. It's not designed to be that. The whole story is an affirmation, if you will, and for Abraham to literally know himself better. We get to know ourselves better when we are called to make a sacrifice. And I'm not talking about a little inconvenience. I'm talking about a real sacrifice. When we are called to step away from those things that have made our lives easier, can we go forward in faith with the same kind of enthusiasm that we had when things were going well, when God is sending us to that place we want to go? But what about that time he's sending us somewhere that we don't want to be? What about that time he is sending us to help somebody who's not that endearing to us? What about those circumstances that we would rather avoid, but we are called to go directly into them? That's what this story is all about. But here is the lesson that I do not want you to ever forget. This lesson is teaching us that our blessings actually follow our efforts in sacrifice. That's what this story is teaching us. We've got to understand that we are living in a very, very fortunate condition, if you will, if we're living in this country. Even the poorest among us are living better than 2/3 of the world. That's no secret. But the point of it is that we've gotten to the point where we think that everything has to be about our desires. Everything has to be about what we want. That's not what we are learning from this particular story, and that's not what we learn in our faith. That sometimes the sacrifices are real. The sacrifices will try us. The sacrifices will torment us, will literally keep us awake at night, unlike Abraham, who's willing to jump right in with both feet, never hesitating because he is obedient to the God who has been so good to him. And so our question is am I willing to make the sacrifice even when I don't see the benefit or the blessing? And that all comes down to how devoted we are. It's kind of a reflection of Jesus in Gethsemane, where he's praying, Lord, let this cup pass from me. I don't want to deal with this cross. I don't want to deal with the pain and the agony that I'm about to experience. And then at the end, Jesus says it. He said, not my will, but let your will be done. Not my will, God, let thy will be done. Have you really said that to God? Lord, I know what I want, but I want more to do what you want me to do. I want to be where you want me to be. I want to be the manifestation of your will in this world. And that's what we are being called to do. And I'm asking you to stand now and join me. And I want you to I want you to embrace that reality that we are willing not only to make a sacrifice, but to be a living sacrifice for God Almighty, and say to him today, not my will, but let thy will be done. Come on down front and let's talk about this.